morning and welcome to the Monday, February 8th, 2021 Education Professional Standards Board meeting agenda. Pursuant to Executive Order 2020-243 OAG 20-05 and a memorandum by the Finance and Administration Cabinet dated March 16, 2020, and in an effort to prevent the spread of novel corona COVID-19, the Kentucky Department of Education is conducting all open meetings by video teleconference. Furthermore, members of the public will not be permitted to attend the meeting in person, but are encouraged to view the meeting at the Kentucky Department of Education's media portal. And we welcome all of those joining us through the portal. This meeting will now come to order. And I would like to ask Dr. Ellis to read the mission statement for us, please.
Good morning, thank you. The EPSB mission statement is that the Education Professional Standards Board, in full collaboration and cooperation with its education partners, promotes high levels of student achievement by establishing and enforcing rigorous professional standards for preparation, certification, and responsible and ethical behavior of all professional educators in Kentucky.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. On December the 11th, 2020, Executive Order 2020-1033 was filed to set the terms of service for the EPSB members and replace Executive Order 2020-702. The new executive order retained the membership of the EPSB, but required all members to be sworn in. Though we were able to swear in many of our members at the December 14, 2020 meeting, we had a few members who were unable to attend the meeting. Leah Sharp joins us again today to administer the oath to Dr. Donna Hedgepeth, Carmen Souter, and Deputy Secretary Mary Pat Regan. Ms. Sharp, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chair. I will ask those members that need to complete the oath. I will raise my right hand and will read the oath in its entirety. Then I will say your name at the end and ask you to swear or affirm. I do solemnly swear or affirm, as the case may be, that I will support the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, so long as I continue as citizen thereof, and that I will faithfully execute, to the best of my ability, the office of Board Member of the Education Professional Standards Board according to law. And I do further solemnly swear or affirm that since the adoption of the present Constitution, I, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state, nor out of it, nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have I acted as second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help me God. Donna Hedgepeth.
What do I say? Yes.
You swear or affirm?
I swear. You think I'd know after doing this like 6 times. Sorry.
Mary Pat Regan.
I swear.
Carmen Souter.
I swear.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Chesser joins us today as Board Secretary. Ms. Chesser, thank you for joining us, and will you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Amanda Ellis.
Amanda Ellis, present.
Mary Pat Regan.
Mary Pat Regan, present.
Elijah Edwards.
Elijah Edwards, present.
Sarah Green. Kathy Gunn.
Kathy Gunn, present.
Donna Hedgepeth.
Donna Hedgepeth, present.
Tracy Hunt.
Tracy Hunt, present.
Jacqueline Mayfield.
Jacqueline Mayfield, present.
Justin Mitchell. Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, present.
Lisa Rosinski.
Lisa Rosinski.
Stephen Scrivener.
Stephen Scrivener, present.
Amber Snell.
Amber Snell, present.
Carmen Souter.
Carmen Souter, present.
Josh Trosper.
Josh Trosper, present.
Julian Vasquez, Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, present.
We have quorum.
We will now move to the consent items. The following items are listed on the agenda as consent items. Letter A, approval of December 14, 2020 EPSB meeting minutes, and letter B, emergency non-certified personnel program. Does anyone wish to remove either of the items from the consent agenda for further discussion? Having received no request to remove items from the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve consent items A and B?
Sherry Powers. I make the motion to approve consent items A and B.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Mary Pat Regan, second.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary Regan. The motion before the board is to approve consent items A and B. As this meeting is being conducted via video teleconference, we will have a roll call vote for each vote. Ms. Chesser will call the roll. I would like to remind each board member to please state their name, pause for a moment, and then state their vote. Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards.
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis.
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Kathy Gunn.
Kathy Gunn, approve.
Donna Hedgepath.
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Tracy Hunt.
Tracy Hunt, approve.
Jacqueline Mayfield.
Jacqueline Mayfield, approve.
Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, approve.
Mary Pat Regan.
Mary Pat Regan, approve.
Lisa Rosinski.
Lisa Rudzinski, approve.
Stephen Scrivener.
Stephen Scrivener, approve.
Amber Snell.
Amber Snell, approve.
Carmen Souter.
Carmen Souter, approve.
Josh Trosper.
Josh Trosper, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Voting is complete.
The motion passes. Today, Commissioner of Education and Chief Learner, Dr. Jason Glass, joins us as Executive Secretary to the EPSB. I will now recognize Commissioner Glass to provide his report. Welcome, Dr. Glass.
Hi, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Well, I appreciate the chance to just check in with everyone. Our focus at KDE has been squarely on managing this next phase of COVID mitigation and what comes next. Tomorrow we'll be releasing new guidance documents to districts around the large-scale restoration of in-person learning. We're seeing case numbers fall across the state, and of course, as more of our staff members are vaccinated, the risk to them continues to fall. And so we have to start planning for that next step of what does this look like after the pandemic, and how do we restore large-scale in-person services to those places that have not had that, and also start working on how we restore the experiences so many of our students missed out on over the course of this pandemic, thinking about extended day, extended year, summer school, early return programs throughout the spring, into the summer, into the fall, and beyond, evaluating where our students have areas that we need to support them on, and keeping the focus on how we get students to really fall in love with learning again, fall in love with school again. The last thing that I think we want to do is bring kids in for some kind of remedial program and put them in front of a device again. So there will be a stress from KDE as we support districts on creating meaningful learning experiences for students. So our guidance documents will point toward that. We'll also be supporting districts with how they use the infusion of federal funds through the latest round of ESSER funds that are being distributed to districts on the title formula. The department also has some holdback funds on that, how we'll be using and distributing those funds. And then there's a smaller pot of money that the governor's office has that we've been working on with them around how those will be used. All of that creates an unprecedented amount of one-time dollars that we'll be able to use in education over the next 2.5 years to really do some exciting things for our students, to create some meaningful experiences for them. So we'll be doing a lot of work on that. I don't want to steal the department's thunder by jumping in too early and talking about all of the details to that, because we'll be having a superintendent webinar tomorrow where we'll be releasing that guidance document, or all those guidance documents, and having a conversation about it. We really want this to be the first step in that process, as now our schools will have more detail on what to expect in terms of the dollars that are available and how those potentially can be used. We want to bring our school districts back together later on this month to allow some dialogue across them, where we invite some districts on to present what their initial thinking was, to create that sort of cross-pollination of ideas across districts, where they're able to share their thinking and creatively share ideas across districts. So we're looking forward to that conversation and also to the increased services getting underway in whatever form that takes in different communities across the state. We're also, like everyone, keeping a close eye on this fast-moving legislative session and a number of key bills that are moving in that. One key one that we're paying attention to is House Bill 208. It contains all of the waivers and emergency provisions and reorganizations that we did back in 2020 to help the state and help districts manage our response to COVID. Those are about to all expire, and we stand the risk of having to sort of push everybody back into a world where we pretend COVID doesn't exist if that doesn't move through. So we're getting good indications that it will get moving, but it's a high priority piece of legislation for us, as is the budget and keeping an eye on funding for the Kentucky School for the Deaf and the Kentucky School for the Blind, which are outside of the SEEK formula. So they really depend on the state legislature, making sure that they have the funding that they need. So I think those are the main items that I'd report to you on right now. I'll pause there and turn things, I think, over to Associate Commissioner Rob Akers to talk a little bit about the EPSB staff.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioner Glass. Thank you for the opportunity to get to share with you this morning. It's good to see you today, and thank you for being here to conduct the work of the EPSB. Since our last meeting in December, our OELE staff have continued to further the work of the board, and I'd like to share an update on the status of that work. In regulatory work, I'd like to spend a moment or two on two specific regulations. 16 KAR 5010 is the large regulation that was presented to you in December. We had planned on having it before you today for a second reading, but we're in a bit of a holding pattern. As you know, the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation, or CAPE as we call them, is the national accrediting body with whom we have an agreement and is the only EPSB entity that currently can accredit Kentucky institutions at the national level. As luck would have it, CAPE is updating its standards, and while you have approved the updated standards for initial certification programs, the standards for advanced programs have not yet been approved by CAPE's board. So we need to wait until those standards are approved before moving the regulation forward. I fully admit that this slowdown is disappointing and that we would like to have this work already done, but we are better off waiting to approve and send the regulation to the LRC in its updated form so that we aren't having to come back and go through this process all over again. The next regulation, 16 KAR 5020, is the regulation you had previously heard information on about admissions requirements for educator prep providers. We expected to have that revised regulation for you today, but after further discussion and feedback from our Kentucky Association of Colleges for Teacher Education, or CACTE, it was decided that CACTI would conduct some further research and discussion regarding if they wanted to amend their recommendations. The CACTI proposal that was shared with you last fall was drafted in February 2020. As you know, much has happened since that time, and based on almost a year's passage, I encouraged CACTI to review their recommendations to ensure that they think they are still appropriate. There's a lot of national and state level conversation focused on admissions and certification testing as gatekeeping mechanisms that keep underrepresented teaching candidates out of our classrooms. As we bring possible regulatory revisions to you for your consideration, we want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date feedback to inform your decision. Switching just briefly to the written report that you received on Title II. Just a few main takeaways. The report tracks enrollments and completers into and out of our Ed Prep programs. It is a lagging report, meaning that the data that's included in the report comes from 2018 to 19. College enrollments or program enrollments are rolling throughout the year, so it's very difficult to get a firm number without getting through the full year to then evaluate the data on that. And it's not surprising that in 2018-19 numbers were down in both enrollments and completions. Anecdotally, our partners have shared that numbers are up in enrollments and were up last year as well. And of course, we will continue to monitor and report and be happy to take questions later on that if you have any. Just a quick update on student teacher subbing. At the December meeting, you voted to allow student teachers to serve as substitutes while continuing to earn clinical hours toward their certification. The relief you provided was in response to needs shared from our districts and upon the encouragement of the Senate leadership. I want to first thank our EPPs for working quickly under very tough timelines to make this happen. I know that it was not an easy task on top of what they were already dealing with, and with having some already dismissed for winter break, I know that provided an additional challenge. That being said, early feedback ranges from reserved to enthusiastic. We will continue to connect with our EPPs and districts to collect information to share with you at the April meeting. Again, this waiver currently expires at the end of the spring semester. Moving on to option 7, I want to share that we anticipate having 2 option 7 programs for your consideration at the April meeting. We have 1 district and 1 educational co-op who have applied for program approval. Both have partnered with an EPP, even though it's not required, and both are very different in their goals for training teacher candidates. As a reminder, this is an alternate route to certification as provided by the General Assembly in KRS 161048 and is for post-baccalaureate candidates who are seeking certification only. This route allows colleges, universities, districts, groups of districts, and third-party entities to be approved to prepare and recommend teachers for certification. We are learning right alongside our partners during this first round, and we'll likely spend some time at the April meeting discussing these programs in much greater depth with you. Quick update on our request for proposal. I'm excited to say we're making strong progress with our RFP to develop a platform to update, host, and manage our dozens of computer applications. We are nearing the very end of the negotiation period and developed a very aggressive timeline for implementation. All said, it will likely take over a year to convert all of the programs, but by this summer, we will have some of our programs in certification being moved to the new platform. What the user sees may not look all that different at first, but when the project is finished, we expect for educators to be able to use automated functions for certificate renewal. That process alone will allow our staff to focus on new certification applications, which will increase turnaround speed and hopefully increase customer satisfaction. I will continue to update you each meeting. I'm proud of the work our staff have done to launch this project, and I know that when complete, Kentucky will have the first comprehensive platform of this type, and it will be something that will be a real benefit to our educators, districts, EPPs, and staff. Madam Chair, Commissioner Glass, that concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
I have a question about the 2 KARs that we've had to postpone. Is there any chance that they're going to reach their expiration before we're able to revisit them?
I'll let Cassie weigh in on that one.
Good morning. No, we are monitoring those 5010 is set to expire in August. It has previously been filed with that with the 18 months grace period to amend, and that would be up in August. However, we do expect to have that second reading before you in June and have that filed within time. 5020 actually was recently opened, I believe, last February, so we are well within the 7 years on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Akers. Do we have the report from secondary education? Dr. Amanda Ellis.
Hi, good morning. Just want to give a few updates from CPE. And the first one I'd like to share is really a great collaborative effort between CPE, the KDE, and the Cabinet, Education Workforce Development Cabinet. And your very own Lisa is serving to represent EPSB for the Commonwealth Education Continuum gathering. We had our very first inaugural meeting on January 27th at 1 o'clock. We were thrilled with almost 100% attendance, excuse me, and a wonderful welcome from all three of our co-chairs, as well as involvement of them helping to lead our meeting to set the stage, the purpose, and the norms. We were also provided a welcome by our governor, which was nice to see so many folks come to the table to really focus in on one part of the education pipeline. We know that preschool through advanced degrees and career is quite a large order to continuously improve and strengthen. So the first area in which we're looking at in this year and to set some long-term goals as well is really around that transition from high school into post-secondary options. I will tell you that the members, as busy as they were, and Lisa can attest, but in the breakouts, they really yielded some great conversations, great feedback for us. So what it focused mainly on was really looking at early post-secondary opportunities for students and access that they may have in order to possibly earn college credit, be exposed to rigorous coursework, have the ability to complete career pathways and earn certifications. So just a conversation around that and wanting more information. There was also conversation around affordability and knowledge and information that students and families, especially now in the era of COVID, may not even be aware of what they have access to and the funds that may be available. We talked briefly about our FAFSA numbers being down by about 20%, and that's huge. It's not the only way for students to go after funding for post-secondary opportunities, but it is definitely a gateway into that. Also, another topic that really surfaced was the importance of our teacher workforce. And I think this group of folks would find this really interesting. There was a real desire and interest in our current teacher certification pathway for traditional pathway. There were lots of questions around alternative certification, why the trends are going the way that they are, and with also an emphasis in diversifying our teacher workforce. And we know that Associate Commissioner Akers and his team have really put a lot of effort into this. This is not a new conversation, but I do want you to know that this is important to, was important to the folks at the table. So we will be convening again in March, and in that in-between time, the agencies will be looking at the feedback provided by the continuum to guide next steps, setting deliverables for this year that will be short-term goals and long-term to really take actions, whether that be additional research and input, because one of the norms that the continuum agreed upon was to prioritize the voices of those who have been marginalized in the past by our education system. And so lots of student voice, community voice, family voices, and really an emphasis from the continuum that we respect the different cultures and regions of our state and really hear what the needs are. So we're being very intentional about that, and I look forward to filling you in. Also, just really briefly, the next 2 days after the continuum, the CPE had an opportunity to hear the annual accountability reports from campus presidents and representatives. This is called the annual campus data briefings. It sets a time aside for the campuses to share how they are working towards their goals and if they're on the trajectory. Kentucky has made progress towards our goals despite disruptions caused by COVID-19. In 1920, statewide graduation and retention rates as well as degrees were up. At KCTCS and public universities, the Kentucky's educational attainment rate rose to 49.1%, only 2.2 percentage points behind the national average, mainly due to increases in short-term credentials. Degrees conferred, public and IQ, so our private institutions as well, increased 3.3% over last year, and short-term certificates awarded by KCTCS were up by 8.4%. This full report will be available for you to look more in depth at the campus outcomes later this month. Other than that, the last thing I'll share is that CPE is in full swing of updating their strategic plan, and stakeholders will be engaged on this. We have our Academic and Strategic Initiatives Committee, which is our council's committee that would help drive this as well. So this is just beginning. You'll hear more about this to identify goals, metrics, and what we want to do moving forward. Other than that, I will turn it back to you or to our deputy at the cabinet. So thank you.
Thanks. Deputy Secretary Regan will give us the report of the Education and Workforce Development Cabinet.
Good morning, thank you. And I think Amanda gave you all the updates on the continuum. And as Dr. Glass mentioned, we continue to work through the ESSER and GEAR funds that are coming and how those will be distributed. We don't have definite plans yet, but hopefully this week we'll get some more detail on it. Our focus is continuing to get kids into preschool to be kindergarten ready. That is a big focus for our early childhood group. We are also focusing on mental health services as kids come back to school and what will be needed and how we can maybe bring more counseling sessions or services into the schools. We're also working with KDE very closely on looking at outdoor schools this summer to get kids back into learning mode and get them back into a more creative environment. We're working with the state parks and tourism and KDE. And we continue to work with David Horseman and Mary Taylor on apprenticeships in the high school and seeing where we can expand or be creative in looking at that. And then we continue to address the broadband issue, which KDE has done an amazing job getting the lower income services from 15% down to 2% that don't have services today. And we'll continue to work on that as we go forward. So I think that's all I have today.
Thank you. Dr. Glass, do you have any closing comments that you would like to make?
I don't. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Glass, and for all of those updates. Melissa Conley-Salyers was appointed to the EPSB in August of 2020 to represent elementary school teachers. In her tenure with the EPSB, she attended all meetings and voluntarily took on additional responsibilities as a member of the Waiver Committee. Ms. Conley-Salyers has accepted a new position that required her to resign her membership on the EPSB. I would like to thank her on behalf of the board for her service and dedication to this board and the Commonwealth. She will be missed, but we do wish her well in her future position. The board's procedures establishes a waiver committee that meets prior to the board meetings to review the waiver request and make recommendations to the full board. The waiver committee consists of one teacher, one administrator, and one higher education representative. The procedures also allow for the appointment of an alternate member in the event that one or more of the members are unable to attend the meeting. Kathy Gunn was previously appointed to the committee as an alternate, but has thankfully accepted the appointment as a full member to fill the position left vacant by Ms. Conley Salyers. I would also like to appoint Eli Edwards, who has agreed to serve as the alternate for the waiver committee. Thank you, Ms. Gunn and Mr. Edwards, for your willingness to serve. I would like to just touch on what Dr. Ellis said about the CEC. It was amazing. And I really liked when Dr. Glass in a breakout group said we really wanted to identify the problem. We talked about lots of different factors, but really understanding what the problem is caused me to change my focus and really explore the problem from a much broader level. And I'm really excited that the EPSB is representative on this. And I am confident that in future meetings, we will solicit information and feedback from all of the board members to ensure that our voice when it comes to teacher preparation, as well as our experience in the classroom, are making sure that we are providing quality and equity to all students. We're very honored to be on that. Next, we have information items. These items are presented to the board for review and discussion only. We will begin with information item A, presented by Sharon Salzman. Ms. Salzman?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. The information item A is 16 KR 6010, which is the assessment prerequisite for teacher certification, and we are going to be amending that one. And the proposed amendment would update certain Praxis 2 assessments to the new version, and it also includes new tests for certification areas that previously did not have a test. So those that didn't have a test, they just took the PLT test and they didn't have a content-specific test. It would also allow for the adoption of the cut score. Some of these tests you'll see has no cut score at this time. Those cut scores will come when they do the multi-state standard setting study, and those will be conducted in the next month or two. But once we have the second reading of this regulation, those cut scores will be included in this. The revised test that we are looking at is the middle school math, the middle school science, mathematics, reading specialist, teaching reading, and education of young children. And the new test, so these are ones that didn't currently have a test, and we are adopting a new test, would be Japanese world language. It would be music, instrumental, and general knowledge, and the music, vocal, and general knowledge. Currently for the music, we just have a general music content and analysis test. And so anybody that's doing just instrumental or just vocal would have to do the general music content and analysis test. And so we are breaking those down. So anybody that wants to do just music instrumental will now have just a music instrumental test. And those who are just doing vocal music would just have a music vocal test. Now we still will have the music content analysis test, and that will be for those who want to be certified in both instrumental and vocal. They will just have that one test. They won't have to take two tests. We also have Monica Bean here from ETS, who's going to do a brief overview of these tests, and she'll be able to answer any specific questions that might arise. And I would like to welcome Monica and thank her for being here in attendance for this meeting.
Good morning, and thank you, Sharon. I'm going to try to share my screen here. And it's not letting me, of course. We just did this, and now it's not letting me again. And here we go. And the million-dollar question from 2020 and 2021, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So I'm seeing some nods, so perfect. So just a brief overview. So I am the Client Relations Director assigned to support the state of Kentucky, and it is my pleasure to work with you. I always tell you that you're my favorite state, and you genuinely are. I'm going to talk a little bit about the test regeneration that ETS does, and as such, it requires states to adopt the new test because we are expiring or discontinuing the current test that you're using. So those are the three that are that Sharon mentioned earlier: the middle school science, the reading specialist, and the teaching reading. And the last test administration date for those tests that you're currently using is August 31st of 2021. So it's really important that you make that transition prior to September 1st, because candidates will not be able to register for or take those existing tests until that action has been taken. The other tests that are discontinued and are being regenerated for 2022, being the last test administration date, are those mathematics content knowledge that you use for your middle school and high school tests that are there. And basically those tests were redesigned to increase that granularity of the reporting that the candidate performance detail with regard to the different sub areas of that mathematics test. For example, educator prep programs are wanting to know how their candidates are performing in the area of algebra, geometry, etc. So it will be very beneficial to the educator prep programs. Also, that increased measurement of mathematics content knowledge in the instructionally focused tasks. And of course, we increased the amount of time per question. And as Sharon said, the multi-state standard setting study was conducted for the math test in January, and we anticipate having that report by February 19th for those particular tests. And again, that last test administration date will be August 22nd, so there's plenty of time for that transition. The additional Kentucky test changes that Sharon mentioned were the Japanese World Language Tests, which we are just now in the process of establishing the multi-state standard setting study, and then also the new music tests, which we were asked by a state client to create 2 new tests because many programs, as Sharon said, do not have a comprehensive music program. And so candidates were having to be assessed on components that they were not receiving within their educator prep program. So we did create 2 new assessments, and we still maintain the existing music assessment. And then also the 4th test is not a new test, but it will be new to Kentucky, and that is the education of young children. The Japanese World Language Test, as Sharon said, it's basically designed for primary through grade 12 foreign language. Currently in Kentucky, you are only requiring the principles of learning and teaching for the 3 Japanese, Arabic, and Russian. Good news, we are also designing a Russian test, which will be available in 2022-2023. So that might be a later agenda item for an additional meeting. And then it is basically designed to be parallel to the other world language assessments. And so the new requirement would be for the Japanese World Language Assessment, as well as one of those principles of learning and teaching assessments. The new music test, as Sharon mentioned, there are 3 different license areas in Kentucky, the instrumental music, integrated music, and vocal music P12. And currently each of those license areas is requiring the music content instruction, which is a comprehensive test. Plus it also requires the principles of learning and teaching. The revised option would be that you would adopt the instrumental music and the vocal music test, and therefore the candidates would be able to choose which test fits their content area within their program. The next item, and actually the last item, is that replacement test. Currently, Kentucky is using for the birth to interdisciplinary early education. You're using that test, which was designed, believe it or not, for the state of Kentucky. Therefore, it matches your license area, that interdisciplinary early childhood education. We are recommending, and that is the action that is posed before you with the information, is to replace that existing test with the Education of Young Children Praxis test, which is 5024, with a required score of 160 from that multi-state standard setting study. So currently the states that are, entities that are using the 5023, which Kentucky is currently using, there are very few. Again, it was designed for the state of Kentucky many years ago, and as such, it was adopted by a few other states. But Many of the states have transitioned to a newer assessment, which is the 5024, which is what we are recommending for the state of Kentucky as well. The 5023 is a selected response test, all selected response questions, no focus on content whatsoever. And with the Pritchard Committee's recommendations and the focus and emphasis on literacy and numeracy, this test is really not meeting the needs for Kentucky at this time. And so move on. So the 5023, again, it's not designed to assess the candidate's knowledge of early literacy and numeracy content and practice. And while some questions are about curriculum and assessment, they are, situated in instructional situations involving literacy and numeracy learning. But again, they are basically, this test is designed to measure pedagogical knowledge for teachers working with diverse, with diverse young as well as families and professional colleagues. As you can see, most of the states and territories have transitioned to the 5024, the education of young children, and they have all adopted the recommended cut score of 160 from that multi-state standard setting study. And you can see that the areas of assessment are very similar. The additional constructed response questions, in addition to the selected response questions, are geared to get really more into the pedagogical assessment. And then Section 5 content category is the content, pedagogy, and knowledge. And so it's really about getting into that numeracy and literacy in the context of the pedagogy. And again, is aligned to the NAEYC standards as well as the Common Core state standards based on for the content components. It will provide the same assessment of early childhood learning teaching for all students, but it adds that measurement of the subject-specific content and practices in both literacy and mathematics. It assesses pedagogical knowledge, including through written responses, which is that constructed response, the application of pedagogical knowledge in educational settings. The additional cost is $26 because it does have that constructed response component that your current test does not. And it basically, again, is designed to do exactly what the 5023 does, but it enhances that assessment through the content inclusion. Then also it does support those or does assess the pedagogy and knowledge supporting children with diverse needs for learning in the areas of language and literacy and mathematics, which is that extra bonus. If there are any questions for me, I'd be happy to take those at this time. If not, I will turn it back over to Sharon, and this is my contact information should you have any questions for me.
Thanks, Monica. I appreciate you being here and providing this information. Does anyone have any questions on the amendment to this regulation or any of the tests involved?
I have one question. I noticed on 5023 where Kentucky, along with just a handful of other states, are offering it, and then 5024, some of those same states, do they offer both? I saw some of those same states listed under 5024, and is Kentucky looking at just doing away with 5023 and solely offering 5024? What is the mindset between some states having both?
Sure. So the reason that it's listed on both is that the state is in transition of discontinuing it. And so it's listed on both for now. But once the last test administration, which would be August 31st of 2021, then it will no longer be reflected on the 5023 screen. But because it's still accepted in the state, it has to be listed on that slide.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions, thank you, Ms. Salzman, and thank you, Dr. Bean, for your informative presentation. And
my pleasure.
Next, we have information item B, presented by Allison Bell. Ms. Bell?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm presenting to you today a proposed amendment that would update 16 KAR 3060 to reflect the current state standards for the preparation of school counselors. The certification branch and the educator preparation branch work together along with input from the School Counselor Standards Review Committee, as well as education preparation providers that offer school counselor programs. to draft the amendments that you see before you. In August 2019, the EPSB approved the Kentucky Standards for School Counselor Preparation Programs, which had been aligned with the Kentucky Department of Education School Counselor Practice Standards, as well as the National Council for the Accreditation of Counseling and Related Education Programs, known as KCREP. The previous Kentucky Standards for Guidance Counseling Programs had been incorporated by reference into 16 KAR 5010 as part of the accreditation and program review requirements. The amendments to the regulation would include removing the standards from 16 KAR 5010 and placing them in 16 KAR 3060. The proposed amendment to the regulation reflects the current state standards that were adopted by the board in August of 2019. It also includes certification changes to update the title of the certificate and expand the renewal options. Specifically, the updates in this amendment include changing the name of the certificate and the programs from guidance counselor to school counselor. Incorporated by reference the Kentucky Standards for School Counseling, School Counselor Preparation Programs, removed the references to specific application forms, and expanded the renewal requirements of both the provisional and standard certificates. The amendment proposes to allow candidates to renew the provisional certificate on a minimum of 3 hours of graduate credit. For candidates who have completed all coursework for the standard school counselor preparation program but have not yet completed the employment experience, the amendment would be able to renew the provisional school counselor certificate upon meeting the renewal requirements for the applicant's teaching certificate. The amendment also aligns the renewal requirements for the standard certificate with the renewal requirements for the advanced educational leaders by allowing for renewal based on 2 years of experience, 6 hours of graduate credit, or the required ELA hours. It also lowers the number of graduate hours required for reissuance of the provisional and standard certificate to 6 hours. Crystal Horde is available to respond to any questions that you may have about these certification requirements, and I am available to respond to any questions you may have about the other revisions to this regulation. Does anyone have any questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Next, we have information item C presented by Kathy Trueblood. Ms. Trueblood?
Good morning. Information item C involves 16 KAR 9090 and the review of that and the amendment. So a few years ago, the legislature updated the administrative regulations process to include a sunset provision. This requires that agencies review their administrative regulations every 7 years. In that time, you're reviewing for compliance, for any updates that need to happen, and whether or not you want to retain that regulation. If an agency does wish to retain a regulation beyond that 7 years, there are 2 options. The board can file a letter stating that you certify the regulation, that it's good as is, and that you are going to maintain it, and then it is valid for another 7 years, or you can file a letter that you're certifying with the intent to amend. And with that, that gives the board 18 months to amend the regulation and file it. This regulation was previously reviewed by the board and marked as certify with the intent to amend in February of 2020. So we are now presenting you with the amendments to that regulation so that it will be filed prior to the expiration of that 18 months. Now, 16 KAR 9090 is the regulation that establishes the program requirements and candidate qualifications for the university-based alternative certification program for teachers of world languages. It also contains the requirements for issuance of the temporary provisional certificate to teach world languages. The amended regulation is included in your materials, and the proposed amendments are pretty straightforward. They remove the references to an outdated application. As the board is going to this online system, we're including in the regulation the specific needs of the application, but removing a reference to a form and incorporating that by reference. Additionally, there's a little clarifying information on the evaluation of international transcripts, and we did rearrange 2 sections of the regulation to hopefully make it flow more logically. The regulations included with your materials along with the staff note. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you all. And Chair, I do believe you are muted. And Lisa, I think you're still muted, actually.
Okay, how about now?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we are moving on to action items. We have one. This item is presented to the board for action and will require a motion and a vote. Action item A is presented by Margaret Hawkinsmith. Ms. Hawkinsmith?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Good morning. Before I introduce the chair of the EPSB's Accreditation Audit Committee, I want to make a brief comment regarding the regulatory requirement for accreditation and program review. Under the current regulation 16 KAR 5010, all educator preparation providers, or EPPs as we call them, must seek state accreditation with the EPSB. However, an EPP may also pursue national accreditation with the current recognized provider, CAPE, which stands for the Council of Accreditation of Educator Preparation. When an EPP pursues both national and state accreditation, there is a joint review process that includes national and state reviewers. The University of the Cumberlands, before you today, sought both national and state accreditation. For a joint review process, the national accreditation decision precedes the state accreditation decision. The board-appointed Accreditation Audit Committee reviews the CAPE accreditation decision and all accreditation review materials and makes a recommendation regarding accreditation. In addition to state accreditation, the AAC also reviews and makes a recommendation to the board regarding the approval of all certification programs offered at the EPP. And I will now hand this over to the Accreditation Audit Committee Chair, Dr. Faye Dieters, for her summary of the review and decision process.
Thank you, Margaret. Good morning, everyone. The Joint CAPE State Accreditation site visit for the University of Cumberland occurred on April the 26th through 28th, 2020. The site visit was conducted virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The national and state site visitors reviewed the accreditation of the University of Cumberland's initial and advanced programs related to the current 5 CAPE standards, as well as the carryover of 4 previous Areas for Improvement, AFIs, from the NCAPE review in the prior accreditation visit in 2012. The previous AFIs from the 2012 visit included 2 NCATE issued AFIs and 2 additional EPSB issued AFIs. After the off-site formative review and on-site visit in spring 2020, the site visitors recommended no areas for improvement. The Cape Accreditation Council met in October 2020 and made the national accreditation decision and found all standards are met by the EPP and issued no areas for improvement. The council also removed the 2 NCATE issued AFIs from the prior 2012 visit. The EPSB's Accreditation Audit Committee, AAC, reviews and recommends both state accreditation of the EPP and program approval of every licensure program an EPP offers per KAR 5010. The AAC met on December 1st, 2020, and examined all the materials from the off-site and on-site accreditation reviews for the University of Cumberland's, as well as their program review documents. The AAC agreed with the CAPE findings of all standards met and no AFIs or stipulations. The AAC also recommends removal of the AFIs from the previous NCATE state visit. The AAC's recommendations to the board are 1, accreditation, and 2, approval of the initial and advanced level educator preparation programs at the University of the Cumberlands. Does the board have any questions?
Hearing no questions, thank you, Ms. Hawkins-Smith and Dr. Dieters. The action question before the board is, should the EPSB grant continuing counsel for the accreditation of educator preparation, state accreditation to the EPP, and approve the initial and advanced preparation programs at the University of the Cumberlands? I will need a motion.
Donna Hedgepath, so moved.
Dr. Hedgepath, is your motion to approve the accreditation and approve the initial and advanced educator programs at the
Yes,
University?
thank you for saying that for me. I apologize.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you. And is there a second?
Tracy Hunt, second.
Ms. Hunt with the second. So there is a motion and a second. The motion is to approve the accreditation and approve the initial and advanced educator programs at the University of the Cumberlands. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Chesser to please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, I recuse.
okay. Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, approve.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Mary Pat Regan,
Mary Pat Regan, approve.
Lisa Brzezinski,
Approve.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, approve.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes.
Madam Chair, at this time, I would just like to congratulate the University of the Cumberlands and the dean of their School of Education, Dr. Shannon Deaton. This is a 2 and 3 year long process that is very, very, very grueling. So I just would like to recognize and congratulate the university.
Thank you for mentioning that, and congratulations from the board as well. Okay, so we're going to move on to waivers, and we'll review waiver requests. KRS 161.028 subsection 1R provides that the board has the authority to waive its administrative regulations when a request is submitted by an application for certification, a post-secondary institution, or a superintendent of a local school district. When requesting a waiver, the requesting party must submit to the board a written request along with the appropriate justification for the waiver. EPSB staff reviewed the waivers with the EPSB's waiver committee during an open meeting immediately prior to this meeting, and the waiver committee formulated recommendations. Kathy Jackson and Crystal Hoard will present the waiver requests to the full board, and the waiver committee chair, Dr. Sherry Powers, will present the committee's recommendation for final action. We'll start with waiver A, and that is presented by Kathy Jackson. Ms. Jackson?
Good morning. I pretty much have anything to do with student teaching at OELE, and we received waivers from Morehead State University. Their first waiver is a request to waive Regulation 16 KAR 5040, Section 5, for student Caleb Paul, who is an art education K-12 major. The regulation states that when a candidate is pursuing a K-12 certification, that they need to have a placement split between elementary and then a middle or high school setting. Due to the extraordinary circumstances and in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, Rowan County has asked that the student, Caleb Paul, not be placed in an elementary building, and that the placements be divided between the middle school and high school setting. Does anyone have any questions?
Hearing none, Dr. Powers, what is the waiver committee's recommendation?
Okay, the waiver committee met this morning to review the waiver request and supporting documentation. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board approve the request.
Thank you. This item is on the agenda for action, and I will need a motion.
Jacqueline Mayfield, I make the motion to approve the alternative student teaching placement request for Caleb Paul.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. Is there a second?
Second, Amanda Ellis.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis, with the second. So there is a motion and a second. The motion before the board is to approve the waiver A for Caleb Paul. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, I approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, I approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, approve.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, I approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Mary Pat Regan,
Mary Pat Regan, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Radzinski, approve.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scribner, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approved.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, approve.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Strasburg, approved.
Julian Vasquez, Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approved.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion on waiver A passes. Next, we'll have waiver B.
Moorhead has submitted a waiver to request a waiver of Regulation 16 KAR 5040, Section 5 for student Caitlin Gation. Caitlin is a music K through 12 education major. This regulation states that when a candidate is pursuing a K through 12 certification, that the placement is split between elementary and either high school or middle school setting. Due to extraordinary circumstances and in light of COVID-19 pandemic, Boyd County has asked that this student teacher, Caitlin Gation, not be placed in an elementary building and that the placements be divided between a middle school and high school placements. Are there any questions?
Jacqueline Mayfield, I have a question.
Yes.
Why are they not wanting this person in elementary setting?
I think the largest reason right now is that if you are an enrichment teacher like music or art in an elementary school, you will have contact with every student in the building. Whereas opposed if you were just in a classroom, it would just be mostly those students. So that's what the district, I believe, has addressed.
Thank you.
Further questions?
Thank you. Do I have a motion on waiver B?
Lisa, do you want me to read the recommendation first?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Powers. What is the recommendation of the waiver committee?
Okay. The waiver committee met this morning to review the waiver request and supporting documentation. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board approve the waiver request.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Now, do I have a motion on waiver B?
Elijah Edwards. I make the motion to approve the waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Do I have a second?
Stephen Scrivener, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Scrivener. I have a motion and a second. The motion before the board is to approve waiver B. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards.
Elijah Edwards, I approve.
Amanda Ellis.
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Kathy Gunn.
Kathy Gunn, approve.
Donna Hedgepath.
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Tracy Hunt.
Tracy Hunt, approve.
Jacqueline Mayfield.
Jacqueline Mayfield, approve.
Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, approve.
Mary Pat Regan.
Mary Pat Regan, approve.
Lisa Rosinski.
Lisa Rosinski, approve.
Stephen Scrivener.
Stephen Scrivener, approve.
Amber Snell.
Amber Snell, approve.
Carmen Souter.
Carmen Souter, approve.
Josh Trosper.
Josh Strasburg, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approved.
All members have voted.
Thank you. And the motion passes. We will now move on to waiver C. Ms. Jackson?
Moorhead has submitted a waiver request to waive Regulation 16 KAR 5040, Section 5 for their student Natalie Gation. Natalie is a music education major K through 12. The regulation states that when a candidate is pursuing K through 12 certification, that the placement is split between an elementary and either a middle school or high school setting. Due to extraordinary circumstances and in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, Boyd County has asked that the student teacher navigation not be placed in an elementary building and that the placements be divided between a middle school and high school assignment. Are there any questions?
Dr. Powers, what is the waiver committee's recommendation?
The waiver committee met this morning to review the waiver request and supporting documentation. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board approve the waiver request.
Thank you. This time I'll need a motion reference waiver C.
Jacqueline Mayfield. I make the motion to approve the alternative student teaching placement request for navigation.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. Is there a second?
Mary Pat Regan, I'll second that motion.
Mary Regan with the second. Thank you. There is a motion and a second. And the motion before the board is to approve the waiver for waiver C. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, I approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, I approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, approve.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Mary Pat Regan,
Mary Pat Regan, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rosinski, approve.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, approve.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Strasburg, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approved.
All members have voted.
And the motion on waiver C passes. Next, we have waiver D. Waiver D is presented by Crystal Horde. Ms. Horde?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Waiver D is requested by Fairview Independent Schools on behalf of Ms. Carrie Price. 16 KAR 2120 allows for a second emergency certificate to be issued under two circumstances. Either if the first emergency was issued for less than 50% of the teacher's schedule, or if the first emergency was issued after February 15th of the school year. Previously, in the 17-18 school year, Ms. Price was teaching less than 50% on an emergency certificate for gifted education. And then for the 18-19 school year, she was qualified for a second emergency and was teaching on that certificate for less than 50%. She has since enrolled in a program leading to the gifted endorsement, and she will be completed with that this summer. However, the district now is requesting a third emergency certificate for a portion of her schedule. They need her in the area of library media specialist. She intends to enroll in a program this fall, and once enrolled, she will be eligible for the library recruitment program, which does allow 3 years of probationary certification. So in short, the district is requesting a third emergency under 2120 for her to finish out the current school year as a school media librarian. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Powers, what is the waiver committee's recommendation?
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request and supporting documentation submitted by Fairview Independent Schools. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a motion?
This is Amanda Ellis. I make a motion to approve 16 KAR 2120 to request to waive emergency certification requirements for Carey Price.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis, with the motion. Mr. Trosper, I heard you. Do you want to second?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you. So having a motion and a second, the motion before the board is to approve waiver request D. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, I approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, approve.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Mary Pat Regan,
Mary Pat Regan, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rosinski, approve.
Stephen Scribner,
Stephen Scribner, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, approve.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Strasper, approve.
Jillian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
All members have voted.
Thank you, and the motion on waiver D passes. Next, we have waiver E. Ms. Horde?
Thank you. Waiver E is requested by Ms. Courtney Harris, who is a Jefferson County Public Schools teacher. She is currently enrolled in an MAT program at U of L pursuing middle school social studies as her certification. She's in her first year on the temporary provisional certificate. Ms. Harris also has a previous master's degree in public administration, and she is requesting that the board approve this previous degree under 16 KAR 8020, the rank 2 regulation, to allow her to get credit for that previous degree as it relates to social studies content. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Powers, what is the waiver committee's recommendation?
The waiver committee met this morning to review the request and supporting documentation. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board approve the request.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. This item is on the agenda for action, and I will need a motion.
Kathy Gunn, I make a motion that we approve the waiver for exceptional circumstances in the case of Courtney Harris.
Thank you, Ms. Gunn. Is there a second?
Carmen Souter, I second the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Souter. There is a motion and a second. The motion before the board is to approve waiver E. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, I approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, I approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, I need to recuse myself from this one.
okay. Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, I approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Mary Pat Regan,
Mary Pat Regan, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, approve.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, approve.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Strasper, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approved.
all members have voted.
Thank you. And the motion on waiver E passes. We'll move on to alternative route to certification application. This applicant is pursuing the option 1 exceptional work experience route to certification. This is one of the alternative routes established by the legislature in KRS 161.048. An applicant with exceptional work experience must have an offer of employment from a local school district, a bachelor's or graduate degree meeting minimum GPA requirements, and an academic major or a passing score on the academic content assessment in the area in which certification is being sought. The board will need to determine if the applicant's work experience constitutes exceptional work experience. The application will be presented by Ms. Horde. Ms. Horde?
Thank you. As Madam Chair stated, this route, option 1, exceptional work experience, is in 16 KAR 161048. Now, typically this route is for initial certification. However, in this case, we've had this one other time in the past. We have a individual. This person is Kelly Brady with Jefferson County Public Schools. She is already an existing teacher who has gone through an MAT program. And the reason why they're pursuing this route for the added certification area of dance is because there are no other teacher preparation programs or route to certification in the area of dance. There are no EPPs in Kentucky that offer a dance teacher certification program any longer. So this is the only route that someone can obtain this certification. In her case, she is already a certified teacher in the area of theater by a option 6 program, as I mentioned. So she's already met all admission or all certification requirements as far as the GPA. Her undergraduate degree included a minor in dance. ETS does I'm not sure if there's not a test available, but Kentucky does not have a praxis content requirement in the area of dance. But Miss Brady does meet all other certification requirements in that she's worked for over 10 years in the field of dance as a dancer and as a choreographer in numerous productions in public community theater and with school theaters. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have about this route.
Thank you. Hearing no questions, I will need a motion.
Kathy Gunn, I make a motion that we approve Kelly Brady's alternative route to certification in dance.
Thank you, Ms. Gunn. Is there a second?
Jacqueline Mayfield, I second.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. With a motion and a second, the motion before the board is to approve the application for alternative route to certification for Kelly Brady in the area of dance. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, I approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, approve.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Mary Pat Regan,
Mary Pat Regan, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, approve.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Strasper, I approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Ward, for all of your information today. I will now open the floor to any board member for board comments. Does anyone have anything they wish to share? Okay, at this time, I believe we are ready to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810, subsections 1C and 1J, to conduct a character and fitness review and to review potential actions relating to complaints and reports. The board will also review pending litigation. At this time, I will need a motion to go into closed session.
Stephen Scrivener, I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Scrivener with the motion, is there a second?
Sherry Powers, second.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. I have a motion and a second. The motion before the board is a motion to go into closed session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, I approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, approve.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Mary Pat Regan,
Mary Pat Regan, approve.
Lisa Rosinski, Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, approve.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Strasper, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion to go into closed session passes. We are now ready to move into closed session. We are now back in open session, and at this time, we will vote on those items discussed during closed section. I will start with character and fitness. Number 1, deny. Numbers 2 through 11, approve. Leah Sharp will call the roll after each section.
Kathy Gunn,
I agree on all. Kathy Gunn.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, yes on all.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, I agree on all.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, I agree on all.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes on all.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, yes to all.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, agree on all.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, yes on all.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Strasper, yes to all.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes to all.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. Moving on to CA4 online, character and fitness. Number 1 through 9. 1 through 9, approve. Ms. Sharp, take the roll, please.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, I agree on all.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, yes on all.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes on all.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes on all.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes on all.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rosinski, yes to all.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes on all.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, yes on all.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes on all.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes on all.
voting is complete.
Thank you. Next, we will report out agreed orders. Numbers 1 through 12. 1 through 12. Accept. Ms. Sharp, take the roll.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, I agree on all.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, accept on all.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, agree on all.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, agree on all.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, recuse on number 1, yes on number 2, recuse on number 3, yes on number 4 through 12.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rosinski, accept all.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, accept all.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, agree on all.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, accept all.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes to all.
voting is complete.
Thank you. Moving on to findings of fact, conclusions of law, recommended order, and appeal rights. Number 1, accept the finding of fact, modify paragraph 11 of the conclusions of law to align with 16 KAR 1:030 and modify the recommended order to amend paragraphs 3E and 4 to reflect the EPSB's probationary authority. Number 2, modify the findings of fact to amend paragraphs 3, 8, and 11 to reflect the evidence contained in the record, accept the conclusions of law, and accept the recommended order. Number 3, modify the findings of fact to amend paragraph 12A to connect the regulatory citation, modify the conclusions of law to amend paragraphs 28B and 28G to reflect the correct citation, and modify the recommended order to amend paragraphs 3A through C to reflect the EPSB's practices for reinstatement conditions. And number 4, accept the findings of fact, modify the conclusions of law to amend paragraph 19 to reflect the record, and accept the recommended order. Ms. Sharp, please take the roll.
Do you also want to include the motion to reconsider?
I didn't know if I needed to include that. Can I include it with this?
I think so.
Then I shall. And 1 motion to reconsider. Number 1, defer for further action. Ms. Sharp?
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, I accept all.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, accept all.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, accept all.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, I accept all.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes on all.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rosinski, yes on all.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, agree to all.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, agree to all.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes on all.
Julian Vasquez Hiley.
Julian Vasquez Hiley, yes to all.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. Finally, we will address educator cases. Number 1 and 2, admonish. Number 3, attorney review. Numbers 4 and 5, admonish. Numbers 6, 7, and 8, attorney review. Number 9, admonish and train, professionalism and anger management. Numbers 10 through 20, attorney review. 21, defer for training, student-teacher boundaries. 22, admonish. 23, defer for training, ARC training. 24, admonish and train, professionalism and record keeping. 25, defer for training, Red Book. 26, admonish and train, classroom management and duty to report. 27, admonish. 28, defer for training, classroom management. 29 and 30, both admonish and train for cultural sensitivity and diversity training. 31 and 32, dismiss. 33, defer for training, admin code. 34 through 39, dismiss. 40, defer for training, admin code. 41, defer for training, admin code. 42 through 48, dismiss. 49 through 51, attorney review. 52, admonish and train, ethics training. 53, defer for training, the hiring and certification process in Kentucky. I might have said 53 if I said that number incorrectly. 54, educator ethics and diversity, admonish and train. 55, dismissed. 56, defer for training, the hiring process and certification in Kentucky. 57, refer to hearing. 58, no further action. 59 through 63, refer to hearing. 64, defer till June 30th for admin code. 65, defer till June 30th for admin code. 66, dismissed. 67 and 68, defer till June 30th. 69 through 71, dismiss. 72 through 80, defer till June 30th for admin code training. 81, dismissed. 82 through 85, defer till June 30th, admin code. 86, attorney review. 87 and 88, defer till June 30th. 89, no further action. 90 through 94, defer till June 30th. 95, no further action. 96 through 98, defer till June 30th. 99, attorney review. 100 through 102, defer until June 30th. 103 through 105, no further action. 106, defer until June 30th. 107 through 123, dismiss. If there's not any questions from the department, Ms. Sharp, will you call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, I agree to all.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, accept on all.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes on 1 through 14, recuse on number 15, and yes on 16 through 123.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, I agree to all.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes on all.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rosinski, yes to all.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes to all.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, yes to all.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes to all.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes to all.
voting is complete.
Thank you. At this time, we have reached adjournment, and I will need a motion to adjourn.
Carmen Souter, motion to adjourn.
Ms. Souter with the motion. Do I have a second?
Sherry Powers, second.
Dr. Powers with the second. The motion before the board is a motion to adjourn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Sharp, please call the roll.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, I support the motion to adjourn.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rosinski, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Carmen Souter,
Carmen Souter, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes to adjourn.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes to adjourn.
Voting is complete.
The motion passes, and we are now adjourned.